Hello and welcome to the MatchDayVlogs YouTube channel. As always, please remember to smash that like button, hit subscribe, because it really does make a difference to the channel. I'm very pleased to be joined here in this episode by James from Arsenal Fan TV. James, how are you doing? You keeping well?
Hi, Mike. Yeah, all good, thanks. All good. Real pleasure to be on here and look forward to talking about the game. I must actually apologise in advance because I've just noticed a little bit of a lag on my end, I think, when it comes to the internet. So apologies if there's any issues there, but
That's absolutely fine.
really appreciate you having me on.
Hey, no worries at all, no worries at all. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the upcoming game at St Mary's Stadium for Southampton versus title contenders Arsenal, currently leading the Premier League table, playing 10 games and winning 9 of them. So I guess my first question to you, James, would be, it's been a fantastic start to the season. I think it's probably as perfect as you can probably get outside that, loss to Man United. But has this been a surprise for Arsenal fans out there? Is it something that they've sort of seen coming, or has it really sort of come as a pleasant shock to them all?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, because we kind of always on AFTV, we kind of go game by game. I I don't know how often we really stop to reflect on whether all this is actually a surprise. And I do have to sort of stop and pinch myself a little bit. Look, I know it's Arsenal and, there's certain expectations, but 9 out of 10 is fantastic for any club, no matter how much you spend or what you're doing. And, a lot of people have been very patient with Arteta. And even those that, maybe had their doubts, they support the club through everything. And we're now seeing it come together a little bit, a lot. 4 wins out of 4 in the Europa League as well. I thought we were good against PSV the other night. And it's a funny one. Is it a surprise? I mean, it's a tough one because in isolation, a lot of those games you would expect Arsenal to win. And I'm not
Hmm.
saying we've had an easy run. We haven't. But I think you could imagine on a good day Arsenal beating Liverpool at home and Arsenal beating Spurs at home, but then losing at Old Trafford. None of that's
Hmm.
overly surprising. I think it's the momentum that we've built, the consistency, and the fact that the football's been really good to go along with it. I think that's what makes it surprising. I think if someone just delivered you a couple of those results at the end of the season without telling you, the context, you probably go,
Right.
yeah, that makes a bit of sense. It's not like we've gone and won at the Etihad and Anfield, but at the same time, it's the consistency. It's the doing it back to back to back,
Hmm.
having this intensity, starting games really, really well. Is it a surprise? I think when you watch us in pre-season, and I think we were all cautiously doing the whole, well, pre-season doesn't matter, so let's just wait and see. Deep down, we were all talking rubbish, I think, to save face a little bit. It absolutely does matter because if you can get your players in early, you can build good momentum and you can set down a few kind of markers before a ball is kicked competitively. You can almost start to set the tone for those games as you go into them. And Arsenal played really well in that Palace game and then away at Bournemouth and all that. So, we've been crying out for ages for Arsenal to do good business and do it early,
Hmm.
but be ready for pre-season. And I don't think it's a massive coincidence that the most consistent pre-season we've had has resulted in easily the best Premier League season, the start to a Premier League season we've ever had either. So, um, I think the answer is yes, we are surprised. But
Hmm.
actually, I think the warning signs were there that Arsenal were on track to show a degree of consistency we hadn't seen before from this team.
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you had an albeit a slight blip towards the end of last season. Just sort of taking you out of the Champions League spots. I mean, you
Mm.
looked pretty devastating in parts of last season as well. So, from an outside perspective looking in, it is a surprise that you've been able to get those results away. I think in regards to like the
Yeah.
Crystal Palace away games and going to Ellen Road and sort of grinding out a 1-0 win against the run of, well, not against the run of play, but just in terms of like getting results where perhaps you might not have got them previously. So,
Well, that's a big point, and I think you can liken that. Well, you can compare that Leeds game to the Southampton game away from home. What I mean by that is
hmm.
this year, just a week ago, Leeds were all over us in the second half, and we kind of came through a 1-0 win. At Southampton last year, it was the opposite. We went a goal down, but we had all the ball and we had a lot of chances, and
Yeah.
we really made you work for it, and we ended up losing that game. So finding a way to actually not be the more dominant side and come out with 3 points is a good thing. Do I think we were lucky? I've had this massive debate with Arsenal fans all week. Yeah, I do think we were lucky, but sometimes you earn your luck. Sometimes it just falls to you because of your determination and your work rate and all that. So, it was a different way of winning a football match, but Arsenal showing, I guess, a few different sides, which is good.
Yeah, that's good to see. So, in terms of like your perspective from the side of things, I mean, what's your thoughts on Southampton's start to the season? I mean, the league table, I'm sure, tells a few things, but what's been your perception of our club so far?
Okay, well, I mean, first and foremost, not just because I'm on a channel talking about Southampton, but I've always had immense respect for Southampton because I think to come into this league where there's a lot of money floating around all the clubs and be as competitive when a lot of the bigger players have been taken from Liverpool, from Tottenham, wherever it be, whether it be Wanyama, Lallana, whoever, and that team has constantly found a way to reinvent itself and go through kind of real spells, go to big stadiums and big clubs and be competitive and actually make St Mary's a tough place. So I've always for some reason sort of hated playing at St Mary's. And actually our record there isn't awful. Our record is pretty like I think we win as much as we lose. But I've just never really enjoyed. They've never been easy games, in bar one or two maybe. But I've always had immense respect for Southampton as a football club first and foremost. And then you get into Ralph Hasenhüttl and everything there. And I kind of think this start to the season, dare I say, it sums up Hasenhüttl a little bit. I
Hmm.
mean, you'll obviously tell me more, but you beat Chelsea, which that doesn't surprise me. You're good in the Man United game, though you lost, but you caused them a lot of problems. But then you can just go through a run of 4 or 5 games without a win, and then
Hmm.
now you've won at Bournemouth, who are on good form. I hate that you're playing us next because I'm used to Southampton going on a run of 4 or 5 wins after that. And, Hasenhüttl's got a way of when you think it's done, he pulls himself back in.
Hmm.
And so, funny side, and the summer business was very interesting from loaning Maitland-Niles to signing the likes of Edozie, Lavia, Bazunu. I don't know whether the direction is now more back to youth. You produce so many good young players. I don't know whether that's maybe an approach they're going for again. I mean, obviously, you'll tell me more. Your wonderful audience will know as well. But from the outside looking in, I don't think I've ever been more unsure about what I'm going to get from an opposition than
Hmm.
I am in this game. With every other game, we do our predictions table in one of our podcasts, and we're largely quite good at predicting what's going to happen. But all of us this morning were like, I have no idea. I mean, we could lose this, we could smash them. I don't know. So I'll put it back to you. I mean, what are you sort of expecting?
Oh, well, I think you bring up some excellent questions in regards to like the young talent being brought in and not really knowing what to expect. I think most Southampton fans can quite relate to that, especially with the ups and downs that we've had so far this season. In the short of it, we've had a few games this season where we could have easily got 3 points had we just
Mm,
simply shown up and played. I'm talking about the Wolves away fixture where we sort of narrowly lost 1-0, but it was kind of a nothing game.
sure.
Away at Aston Villa, I mean, I still have no idea how they managed to stop us. Well, they managed to stop all football being played in that game. It was pretty abysmal.
Yeah, I heard it
Um,
was a pretty bad game.
it
Yeah.
was a rough one. And then we had, Everton at home and all these fixtures, with all due respect to these clubs, we were looking at them thinking like they're winnable games. They're games that
Mm,
we should be getting at least a point from. And we just didn't. And that's really hurt us in the table. And then getting 3 points. And it was quite an unconvincing win, if I'm completely honest. At Bournemouth, there were times there where we were quite wide open, I think.
sure.
So, we're back up the table. We've got 11 points on the board and things look slightly better, but it's congested down there. I think, things can change very, very quickly. But to
Yeah.
your point of going back to youth, I mean, it's the way Southampton has to do it. We just simply don't have the money to buy Premier League proven talent. So,
Sure.
so we have to buy 8 to 15 million and then put them on 5-year contracts. And when the big boys come in for them, we get a bit of money back on them. So that's generally
Yeah.
the way it works. And we don't necessarily like it. I'm not, but you just kind of have to accept that this is the way of doing things, really. So
Yeah, and that's just the nature of the league, and it's sad, you could say. I mean, look at Brighton. All their great
mm,
work, and you lose Potter, and I think they're winless under De Zerbi now in 3 or 4 games, and so you know it, it's sort of the nature of the league isn't really right, and you probably see it across lots of divisions across Europe.
mm,
But that's why it's why I kind of got more than ever respect for Southampton and Brighton when they're I think the term outsmarting the market gets used sometimes. They have to be cleverer than everyone else. They absolutely have to be cleverer than everyone else. And it leads into Klopp's comments where on another level, yes, he can spend 85 million on Darwin Nunez, but they can't keep spending 85 million on Darwin Nunez is because there's another caliber of finances that beyond our. It's unfortunately the nature of the league. But it makes the whole sticking with Hasenhüttl very interesting as well because he's had a few kind of versions of Southampton now, and it's interesting that quite a few signings this summer. Of course, you can tell me if I'm talking rubbish, but it feels like they're sort of it's the start of like another project, and I'm interested if Southampton fans are fully on board with Hasenhüttl.
I think it's generally quite split at the moment. I think majority are swaying to having a different voice in the dressing room now, which is just kind of sort of sad to see. But you've only got to look up the road, in Birmingham with Wolves struggling to get in a manager, and thinking, okay, if he goes, who realistically is coming in? I mean, everyone's dreaming of perhaps getting Poch back in, but that's a big ask if he even wants to come back to football management. But no, we shall have to wait and see. I think it's perhaps a stay of execution with the win in the week, but we've got some more tough fixtures coming up with Arsenal on Sunday starting as well. So, in terms of like the danger players for Arsenal, who should us Saints fans be quivering behind the seats, sort of looking out for on Sunday?
Well, I mean, it's a very obvious answer to throw out Bukayo Saka, but I will say that his form in the last 3, 4, 5 games, very good against Tottenham, excellent against Liverpool, and basically against PSV, he tore them apart almost single-handedly. I know a couple other players played well in that, but him and Granit Xhaka were easily two of the best. And what you basically had is him playing himself into form, getting amongst goals again, popping up in lots of different areas. And I think because what it is with Bukayo Saka, he's so two-footed that you sometimes think you've dealt with him and you haven't. His goal against Leeds is right-footed finish into the net. A lot of people will say, oh, well, how many times is that going in? But actually, it's not overly surprising. He's got a really good hit with his right foot, whether it be a strike at goal or putting it across the box and causing mayhem. So Saka for that reason. Otherwise, if you want to stop Arsenal playing, I mean, the engine room right now are Partey and Xhaka. Partey sort of sits at the bottom of that midfield three and just plays through the lines. Everything happens through Thomas Partey. But Granit Xhaka has just reinvented himself as this box-to-box midfielder who, the 5 are attacking, he's part of it, and the 6 they're defending, he's part of it. He's sort of popping up everywhere. And I think because if I might be wrong, but Ward-Prowse I know he plays central midfield, but he tends to play on the right of the central midfielders, doesn't he? So I think that might be an interesting matchup because I sort of, whilst they're both very good on the ball, I tend to credit their work rate and their, the engines they have, the legs they have in midfield, as two of their main attributes. I never thought I'd say about Granit Xhaka, but very recently that's what he's done so well. So I think to see how they both play against each other will be very interesting. So Saka in terms of the final third, yep. But if it's about stopping Arsenal finding a flow and rhythm, it tends to be if you can stop the supply into Partey and then stop him then redistributing the ball, you have a bit of fun against Arsenal. That's what Leeds did really well in the game last week.
Oh, okay. No, I certainly want to. It's interesting you mentioned Ward-Prowse. I mean, we've had a situation in midfield where we've been without Romeo Lavia since the Chelsea win. It's kind of left us with a situation where Ward-Prowse is having to fill in for like a holding midfield role and kind of like pivoting off whoever's playing alongside, whether it be Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who's on loan from you, who will be ineligible sadly to play on Sunday. So it'll likely be Diallo who'll be doing that. So, but no, it's certainly an interesting one to look out for.
He was a good player, Lavia, may I say. I've got to say, he did look very good in that Chelsea game, and he's made a good start. And I think that, credit to Southampton for how smart they've been, sort of looking at some of these younger talents and realising that they're ready to do a job now.
Yeah, no, he's certainly been one to watch. I mean, it's the reason why I've got his name on the back of my Southampton home shirt.
Well, there you go. Sure. There you go.
So in terms of like threats you see from the Southampton side of things, I mean, is there anyone in particular you see as a threat for Arsenal?
Well, I mean, okay, bringing it back to James Ward-Prowse, I think that delivery he's got, I mean, against Leeds, there were a lot of crosses into the box that kind of, we headed them away or it fell kind of and there was a bit of a mess in the box and then we had to sort of clear it. And I just thought a player of Ward-Prowse's quality, you've got to stop the cross before it gets in. You can't just hope that you're going to deal with it because his delivery is so immense and he'll put it in the most awkward areas. So I think you've got to stop his supply. On the other hand, though, I've always quite liked the look of Che Adams. I don't know if that's Football Manager just getting in my head. I've always I like to play Football Manager. He's always been quite good on that. But also just when I watch him, I think he's one of those rare strikers that you don't necessarily call him. Well, he's not a target man because he's not the tallest, is he? But you don't necessarily say he's a target man or he's a poacher or he's a false nine or whatever. He kind of, from what I see anyway, can do a little bit of everything. He looks a fairly complete player. Again, you'll tell me a lot better, but he looks someone that can cause a few different problems for Saliba or Gabriel, whether it be getting in behind, whether it be coming short and playing off his midfielders or whatever. And was he 3 goals this season? He's your highest scorer.
Yeah,
I know Joe.
right. Yep.
I like the look of Joe Aribo too, but I don't know. I've just always found Che Adams. I don't know how to explain it. Just awkward, but in a good way. In a good way. Actually, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on him. But definitely someone that I think, because there's no natural, he's going to do this for 90 minutes. I think he might prove an awkward task for Saliba and Gabriel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in terms of my opinions, I mean, Shea Adams, you can't fault his work rate. I mean, he's the hardest working player on the pitch, and he kind of feels like he has to be an attacking midfielder as well as a striker, and he kind of sort of works incredibly hard in that whole area, which also leaves us with not much of a, as you say, a target man up front, because quite often we'll have our fullbacks racing down the wings and they're looking at nothing inside the box because, Shea's too deep or Adam Armstrong's too deep. So, in terms of what he's been able to do with what distribution he's had, I think he's done very well. There's just been a few sort of moments where he's sort of slipped off the boil a bit, but he won us the game at Leicester. He got the goal in the game against Bournemouth. So it was a great header. Bit dodgy defending, if I'm honest, but it was still a very good header, and arguably maybe our best goal so far. So it looked pretty good from what I saw on the TVs, really. So moving on to specific thoughts on Sunday's game. How do you see Western One going in regards to your score prediction? You can be as honest as you like. So well, you're in a safe place.
So thank you. I did go for a 2-1 Arsenal win on every other podcast. I predicted that. I sort of on the Forever Arsenal on AFTV, we have this prediction league. So we're always trying to be clever and really be very honest with ourselves because there's points on the board and there's prizes at the end. So I sort of came out with a 2-1 win. Reason being is with Hasenhüttl Southampton, I honestly don't know if we're going to win this 4-0 or lose it 2-0. Or lose it 4-0. I mean, I don't know. So at their best, you guys have gone and scored 3 at Tottenham's ground and, done well under Hasenhüttl as well. So the result gone 2-1. And the way I broke it down was that Arsenal make a positive start to the game, maybe get a couple goals ahead, and then almost try and not sit on what we have. That's not really been what we have wanted to do this season, nor what we actually have done. But I can see Southampton playing themselves into the game, causing us problems, buoyed by the win against Bournemouth and ready to build on it, the confidence from your win against Chelsea at home as well. I think no one has an easy game, and you've made life awkward for Man City over the last couple of years, if I'm right. I think there's been a few draws and good results there on that front. So do not anticipate an easy game at all. But I'm going to go 2-1 because the way I always put it is, as an Arsenal fan, if I can't be confident now, when can I be? It's things have been going well. It's been a long, long time since we've been in a position where I've been going back-to-back games, predicting wins, and they've largely delivered. So I hope it continues. But it really is one of those awkward places to go. And I know that's a kind of a lazy thing that's thrown around with any away game. You go, say any Premier League team right now, Wolves, tough place to go, or Villa, tough place to go. Okay, well, they're both 18th and 19th or whatever they are. Yeah. So I know it's a kind of lazy thing that's said, but I really do find, I think there's something about Hasenhüttl's football. It can be, at its best, it can be high energy, it can be direct, it can be really organised, it can be a press, it can be suffocating, and the Southampton crowd can be great. I was there last year, and it was magnificent. And so I just think when it all ticks for Southampton, it can be really, really awkward. So, I don't ever go there thinking, oh, walk in the park, nice, easy 3 points. So that's why I'm going for a 2-1. But just remember, if this doesn't go Arsenal's way, it wouldn't overly surprise me, because that's just the nature of the Premier League and the nature of St Mary's.
Yeah, you're being generously cautious, I think. But in regards to us, I mean, I'm going to go for I've got to back my boys, of course, and go for a 1-0 win to Southampton. But we are going to be up against it. We have many, many injuries. I mean, Armel Bella-Kopchak's out with a dislocated shoulder. He dislocated it on the game against West Ham, so it looks like he's still going to be out for that. Lavia's out. We heard this morning that Kyle Walker-Peters is out.
Yeah.
So in
good
the right
player.
back,
I like Kyle Walker-Peters.
yeah, it's been really, really good. So, and we're still without Tino Livramento. So it's, two of our top talents there with being out of the side. So it's likely we're going to see some youth, maybe. I don't think we'll see like academy players like Lewis Payne getting a start, because I think it'd be incredibly unfair to do that against the league leaders as your first time full-time debut. So perhaps you might see Gineppo in that right back position. You might see Larios in that right back position, where he'd normally be in the left back. But so yeah, it's going to be a mixed one. But like you say, you never know with these things, and it's always when we're up against it. I mean, I think we were up against it last time you came, and we had Fraser Forster in goal, and I still have no idea how we won that 1-0, because it just felt like just being bombed for 90 minutes constantly. But like you say, you just never know who's going to have their shooting boots on and what we can do. So
no, I felt the same. I remember coming away from that thinking, because that was our third defeat in a row. We had Brighton and Palace defeats before that,
right?
And I thought, but we actually played well in this one, So the kind of narrative was 3 defeats in a row, Arsenal have blown it. But I was sort of kind of came away thinking, yeah, but we weren't that bad. This was different to the other two. So I know what you mean. I want to ask you about 2 players actually very quickly.
Yeah, sure.
Duj Kaleta-Kar. Sorry, I know this will all be on Box to Box on AFTV, but just from my knowledge, Duj Kaleta-Kar, I think, has come in and I believe done quite well. And Gineppo has always been a player I quite like, but I don't really know. I've been seeing him at fullback recently. I don't really know kind of how his trajectory has been at Southampton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Kaleta-Kar's sort of come in as a man of experience, just to sort of give that back line a bit of wisdom, and has really come into the side since Bella-Kopchak has been out injured. And he looked pretty good. I mean, if anything, maybe he looked a little bit slower than Bella-Kopchak, but he's certainly been a formidable force, and he looks massive from everywhere. So I think he's going to be someone to certainly try and get past. But
he's a big player, isn't he?
He is, yeah, sizable
he's
lad.
26. I thought he was a lot younger than that.
No.
Wow.
The beard is deceptive in terms of age and youth as well. But Gineppo's a funny one really, because he's kind of been playing on the left side when we've been doing 3 centre backs, kind of like as like a wing back kind of option, and then maybe filling in as a full back as and when we've needed him. But it's always been the case that he's quite creative, but he always goes that one step too far on quite occasions. So there's one too many step overs and losing possession like that. But he's still a decent player, and I just think that really, given a bit more game time, if that's possible to do so. But he just needs space to play. If he's playing in a congested wing area, it tends to sort of end badly. But if he's got space in front of him, which is why working as a wing back kind of sort of works well, because he can start from a bit deeper.
Interesting.
But he's been kind of used as a bit part player so far this season. So who knows? With the injuries, we might see him starting on Sunday. Have to wait and see. Really.
Fair enough. Look forward to it.
Indeed. So my final question. Is our Arsenal genuine title contenders in your opinion? I know it's early days, and I know you've got to kind of put the realistic mindset on, but
of course,
it'd be interesting to hear your perspective to see how far you think Arsenal can take it this season.
Okay, the answer is, as of right now, we absolutely are, because we're 4 points ahead of Man City and we've won 9 games out of 10. So, We've got to be. We absolutely are. The question is slightly different when it's, do you think you will, and do you think you'll keep pace with Man City? No, I don't, if I'm being really honest. And I kind of think it's one of those situations where, I know we're not Leicester, and I appreciate the difference in the size of clubs with all due respect to Leicester, but I imagine when they were doing really well, they had a better start than they expected. There'd have been a lot of putting the handbrake on and all that. If Arsenal were to win the league, it wouldn't be anything like when Leicester won it, of course, but it would come to as a massive surprise to most. I think just the reason I say no is because if I start saying yes, we genuinely can, and blah, blah, and then we don't, it will feel like, well, where did it go wrong? And why didn't we fulfill that potential? I think the reality is, as good a start as we've made, the expectation is challenge for second, third spot. If we kind of get fourth from this position, you're still happy because we've got the Champions League, and that's the most important thing. But you'd kind of wonder, well, where did everyone else catch us up? Did Liverpool and Chelsea go on a great run? Did Tottenham suddenly get it right, which would be frustrating? And City, I just think with Haaland, and even without Haaland, they're unbelievable. So, as of today, we absolutely are genuine title contenders. And until that starts to look mathematically very difficult, you can't really say otherwise. Tottenham are title contenders. Chelsea are close, to City in the table points-wise. So, they got to be in that discussion. But I just think realistically, things will come. Carabao Cup hasn't even got started. The FA Cup hasn't. Then you have the knockouts of the Europa League, and decisions have to be made. Are we really chasing this title, or are we going to just secure second or third, fourth, and want to win European silverware? These decisions will have a massive part to play. You don't know what injury might happen. You don't know who's going to sign who. You don't know how the World Cup affects things. So I'm still leaning on the side of no, we're not going to be particularly near them, but I also think we're going to hopefully surprise. Well, I've said it before the ball was kicked, actually, that we'd surprise people and actually finish in the top four and look quite good for it for most of the season. So I hope that continues.
Yeah, no, indeed. Well, it's certainly, I mean, in terms of my perspective, I think the Premier League's the hardest it's ever been. I mean, you kind of, if you need to have any chance of winning a league, you have to have like 95, 96 points just to even begin the conversation. And so it's a completely different mindset now than it was 10, 15 years ago. So effectively your goal should be finish above Man City, and then you'll be happy, because I just think with the others there's still, I mean, of course, with Graham Potter coming in at Chelsea, they're looking slightly different now, different kind of mindset. But with the likes of Liverpool struggling to keep pace, and even the clubs are in and around there, it's pretty wide open, really. So time will tell, but indeed, stay positive.
Time will tell. We're happy though. It's looking good. Let's hope it continues. But of course, no Arsenal fan will sit here right now and say that we expected this. They might have that. That might be their standards. That's a different thing. But whether you really thought this was going to happen, I don't think anyone could have said that. So long may it continue.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, James, thank you so much for joining. If you can let us, let the viewers of this show know exactly where they can find you, the various sort of, you've got a YouTube channel, so please.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. Yeah, well, so on my personal YouTube channel, it's just called James B, and actually that's where I kind of talk about other clubs. So there'll be little bits on Southampton here and there, and my thing is wherever I feel I can add a little bit of something to a discussion, I'll do it. If the discussion's done to death and I don't really have more to add to it, then I won't really. But that's where I kind of talk about other clubs, and of course covering Arsenal on AFTV. It's all exclusively there. That really, yeah. And then social handles, I think, are just at James AFTV. They're not particularly clever ones, so you'll find me there.
Great stuff. I'll put all those links in the description down below.
I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you very much.
I thought it was quite amusing that I gave an opportunity for a shout out for Arsenal Fan TV that's got like 1.5 million subscribers. But you've got to do these things. It's one of those things, really.
Well, I appreciate it a lot. And if any Arsenal fans, and actually if any Southampton fans stumble across this, of course Southampton fans will. But if any Arsenal fans do, we'll do two analysis shows. One on AFTV from an Arsenal perspective. And for the Southampton fans who are watching this on DR Sports, we'll sort of cover it from more of a Southampton perspective. So that will be much more what they enjoy. Certainly, if you win, it will hurt, but I'll have to obviously talk about it and try and analyse it. So that's where you'll find all that.
Fantastic. Well, we certainly really do appreciate you coming on the show, James. Really,
thank you, Mike. No, I appreciate it as well. Thank you.
And thanks ever so much for watching. As always, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one. All right, see ya.